Mm-hmm. Got it.
All right, cool. Take it away, Michelle, whenever you're ready.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I am Michelle. I am president of the Data Science Club, and today we'll be working with Ethitech to give you a brief introduction into Tableau. So to introduce the Data Science Club to anyone who may not know us, especially if you're more familiar with Ethitech than the Data Science Club, we exist to guide anyone interested in data science, provide them with academic resources, and create a community for all students who are interested in all types of data science careers. All of our members come from many different backgrounds, the data science minor, the CS major, business, etc. So all students from all majors are welcome.
Hey all, it's Cal.
Yep.
I'm president of Ethitech, and yeah, Ethitech just aims to educate members about ethical issues in CS and just tech in general, provide opportunities to students who wish to build projects, and also foster a community of socially conscious technologists. We're interdisciplinary, all majors are welcome. We're not really a code for good club, we're an ethics and tech club. So really, everyone is welcome. We have people from all different sorts of majors, not just CS, not just say cog sci or philosophy, but we have members spanning all sorts of majors. So we're kind of all over the place, but happy to be hosting this along with data science.
Thank you for being here. So
yeah, so about more on like what we stand for at Ethitech, we hope to provide opportunities to students who wish to build projects, start conversations about like the innovation of technology and the regulation of technology, helping y'all advocate for the causes that you're passionate about, and also just forming a community and educating y'all on the issues you're interested in. Next slide. Awesome.
So I can talk about this bit. So this is going to be an introduction to the data that we'll be using. I'll exit real quick. Give me 1 second. And then I will share the link to this in the chat, and you should all go check it out and download it. There you go. Right, so this is a world disaster risk data set. So it predicts the risk index of a country based on a variety of factors, which we'll get into. So firstly, if you look here is region, this is a categorical variable. Then it's the world risk index, which is a numerical variable. It's just the risk score of the region. And then here are the variety of categories, both in numerical form and in categorical form. So there is exposure, which is the risk or exposure to natural hazards or disasters, earthquakes, hurricanes, floods, those types of things. Vulnerability, so the vulnerability of a country based on its infrastructure, its nutrition, housing, etc. The susceptibility of a country, also dependent on similar factors as vulnerability. Lack of coping capabilities based on the stability of their government, their availability of medical care, social and material security, etc. And then finally, lack of adaptive capacities. So these are basically the capability of a country or region to be prepared for natural events, climate change, etc. Then the year, and then these categories that I just mentioned in a categorical form as very low, low, medium, high, very high. And then you can kind of see a bit of that information here, as you can see. So just go ahead and download that real quick and make sure that downloads as we go along with the presentation. Okay. Continue. All right.
All right, awesome. So let's talk about why we're doing this, why we're looking at this particular data set, and what is the importance of ethical data. So we use data to basically tell stories about issues we care about. Let's say, like right now, we're talking about climate change and disaster risk. Can I go in more something in sustainability? So that's kind of what we're caring about. That's what we want to tell a story about and kind of elevate and advocate for that issue. And this is important because data is everywhere. Pretty much all aspects of life have some data associated with it. It may not be extremely obvious. It may not even be in the form of, let's say, a Kaggle data set, but data is everywhere. Then data detects patterns, in that you can see and identify things like trends, anomalies, patterns, contradictions, and so on. It also makes complex concepts and complex things accessible, approachable, kind of adds more depth to it, adds more validity and trust, summarizes data in a way that is, in the end, approachable. And lastly, it can provide insights into the future, helping us predict future cases. So now, why is it important to get data from reputable sources? It's important because we want to make sure that our data is accurate and reliable, that we're telling an accurate and reliable story. Reputable sources have a reputation to maintain, and they have editorial guidelines that are meant to promote trust and promote the accuracy and validity of that data. And lastly, they have transparent processes and they are objective. Data, as you may all know, are subject to bias, and reputable sources do try to mitigate data bias as much as possible. Now, why does this all matter? Well, one factor is distorted or biased data. We can end up contributing to disinformation and eroding public trust and credibility by distorting data. This could look as simple as like skewing a graph or so on, to favor one side over the other, exaggerating the importance of a single factor over another. And it also matters because it tells stories, and our data and our stories are only as good as what we have and what we're basing our data on. So it's really important that we tell the right stories, that we tell accurate ones, and we tell stories that people can trust with their data.
Okay, thank you, Cal, for that. So this is a little introduction to Tableau. So if you are unfamiliar with Tableau, it's a very powerful data visualization tool. It provides a platform for you to connect your data frames or data sets to transform your data and visualize it in various ways that are really dynamic and interesting to look at. It's used by a lot of professionals in many industries, and based off of the visualizations that you create, you can make a lot of informed decisions from your data. It might not be the main tool that Rutgers teaches if you are, a major that learns a lot of programming languages like CS or ITI or in the business school or anything like that. You'll know that there isn't really a class that teaches you Tableau, but it's still super common in the industry, and a lot of internships or job opportunities are interested in students who have experience with Tableau. Some benefits of Tableau: so you can gain insights into your data very quickly and easily with the visualizations that you create. You can go so far as to create dashboards that are interactive. You can create reports and stories, a whole collection of visualizations that can give an in-depth description of your data set. It's super user-friendly. It doesn't require extensive technical expertise. At first glance, it looks really complex and like there are a lot of tools that you might not be familiar with, but that's what we're here for, to help guide you through it. So this is an example of some visualizations that could be created in Tableau. This is more like a story, which we'll talk a little bit about in the demonstration. So here, based on the data set created, or the data set used for these visualizations, you have here a bar graph, also with the line graph that gives information based on a count of a numerical variable, and then also your categorical variable is months. Here we have a similar breakdown of data where the categorical variable is your months and your numerical variable is actually your diagnosis time. Then here we have a map with each state differentiated by numerical variables, the number of patient visits. And then here you have a simplified bar graph of most commonly used drugs, which is categorical variable versus the numerical variable of count. And so these are, if you think about your data set in those types of ways, breaking down the visualization to, this is the categorical variable, this is the numerical variable, then you'll be much more open-minded to the type of data sets that you are able to create. So what makes Tableau different from other visualization tools? So firstly, it's user-friendly. There's a drag and drop interface that will demonstrate, and it helps you create visualizations really quickly. You don't need to write any code, and you can also see the options for the type of visualizations you can create based on the variables that you are interested in exploring, and we'll show you how to do that. It focuses on data exploration and visualization. There's a strong emphasis on interactive dashboards. We'll talk a little bit about that in our demonstration as well. It offers a wide range of pre-built chart types and visualization tools, which make it really easy to make something that's super polished, super professional looking, really dynamic. Those are really helpful, especially when you don't really know how to get started or with Tableau, or you don't have like the intuitive sense of, I have this variable and this variable that I'm interested in exploring, but I don't really know what table or visualization type is best for that. So that's really helpful. It connects you to a wide variety of data sources, including databases, spreadsheets, cloud-based services, kind of anything that you want to draw data from, you can upload it to Tableau. So for example, the one that we have in the chat, the link that we have in the chat, I'll ask our e-board, just as people are coming in, to refresh that Kaggle link so that they can all download it while we're speaking. The data set that we're downloading is CSV. It should be no problem to upload it into Kaggle. I'm sorry, upload into Tableau. It allows for real-time collaboration. You can share your dashboards with people that you're collaborating with. You can share your reports through Tableau Server and Tableau Online, which is really helpful, especially for big team projects. It can handle very large data sets. It breaks it down really nicely so that you have a good idea of what your columns are, what your rows are, what you have to work with. And that's really helpful for trying to build a story of visualizations. And it offers built-in analytical functions, averages, sums, distinct counts, dates, regions, all those types of things. It includes forecasting, clustering, trend analysis. That's all really helpful. So when would we use Tableau? Essentially, you use it when you are interested in visualizing your information. There are other programming tools that provide visualizations like R, Python, SAS, SQL. If you come from a coding background or a coding major, you may be familiar with those. However, these are they are coding based. So if you have a coding background, you might be fine with this, but if you don't, you might be more intimidated. These programming languages are also helpful for manipulating and cleaning data. However, the type of data cleaning that occurs in Tableau is a lot more simplified and a lot easier for someone from a non-coding background. Here's some of the basic, Tableau products, Tableau Desktop, Tableau Prep, and Tableau Server. And then here's a quick video that we'll watch on downloading Tableau if you don't already have it. So make sure to follow along. And then afterwards, we'll answer like any quick questions if you're having trouble downloading, but then we want to get into the presentation.
Hello everyone, my name is Anita and
Sorry, did someone have something to say?
Yep, I was just gonna say one thing. A reminder to please fill out the attendance. I am putting the link in the chat.
All right, thank you.
welcome to my YouTube channel. Today in this video, we will see how to download the Tableau Public and the Tableau Desktop. So make sure you are watching this video till the end. So let's get started. So as any person which is new in the data visualization field, there is always a confusion which software is better and how can I download that software on my local machine. So in this video, we will see that how to download the software and how to use the software, or what is the main difference between both this software, Tableau Public and the Tableau Desktop. So let's get started with the main product, which is the Tableau Desktop. So if you want to download the Tableau Desktop, on Google, you just type download Tableau Desktop, and here you can see that the first link is there. So just click on that first link. So you will be redirected to this page, Tableau Desktop. So here you can see that the Tableau Desktop page is there. So you just fill all the information and you will get that software. So this Tableau Desktop is the software where you can create the amazing dashboards. So Tableau Desktop has again many pros and cons are there with this Tableau Desktop. So as an individual, suppose you want to work with the Tableau Desktop. So this software is not free software, but you can download this software under the free trial version, which lasts only for the 14 days. So here you can see that it starts your free 14 days trial version. Once that trial get exhausted, you need to pay the $70 monthly. So which is approximately 5,400 rupees, and which is costly for an individual for getting only hands-on experience or for learning purpose. So that's why as a student or as a new user, I recommend you to go with the Tableau Public. But we see both how to download this. So here you just fill all the information and then click on the download free trial. So after downloading it, you can see here this type of the application will be downloaded, and just double click it and follow the instruction. Just click on the next. So after that, your Tableau Desktop will be downloaded. So after this, the next is what? The Tableau Public. So again, on Google, you just type download Tableau Public and you will be redirected to this window. You can see here, I'll share this link in the description box. So you can see the download Tableau Public, and here you can see all the information related to the Tableau Public. And so this is the system requirement. So again, here you just click on that download Tableau Public, and again you will get this type of application is downloaded. And after this, again you double click it and follow the instruction, and let's start working on the Tableau Public. So after installation, I want to show you how it looks. So you can see here, this is the window of the Tableau Desktop. So you just see that window here. This is the first page actually, where you connect with the data sources. So in Tableau Desktop, here, actually I want to show you the difference between the Tableau Desktop and the Tableau Public. So Tableau Desktop has no limit to how many rows can be stored, or it is like providing the security to your dashboard and the reports, and you connect to the any data source. Here you can see that here actually with you connect your Tableau Desktop to any data source. If you just click on the more, you will see that you connect to you connect to the SQL database, you connect to the big data, you connect to the Excel. So there are many data sources are available, and you can connect your Tableau Desktop to these sources. Yeah, here you can see that I have clicked on the more, and you can see these are the data sources. You connect your Tableau Desktop to these many sources. So this is the advantage of the Tableau Desktop, and which is not there in the Tableau Public. So now I will show you in the Tableau Public. So you can see here on the corner, the Tableau Public book one is there, and this is the Tableau Public where you connect with only the text file, Excel file, PDF file, or the Microsoft Access. So This is the limitation in the Tableau public, but again, you create the same type of visualization which you are creating in the Tableau desktop. So for creating the visualization, there is no limitation, but only limitation is there to connect to the data sources. So this is the window of the Tableau public. So with this window, you are connecting to the data sources. So if your .csv file is there, so you click on the text file. Excel file is there, so you click on the Excel file. So this is how you download the Tableau desktop and the Tableau public. Thank you. Hello everyone, my name is.
Give me 1 second. Okay, there we go. All right, so before we move on, we can take maybe like 5 minutes. If anyone has any problems downloading Tableau, you can unmute or let us know in the chat.
I also want to add that if you're having trouble downloading Tableau, there's a Tableau public that you can also use. So if you go to Tableau's website, click on Tableau public, you can open it in your browser. You'll get like an email and stuff like that, and it's free. It doesn't necessarily have all of, if you download it, it doesn't necessarily have all the desktop stuff, but yeah.
Okay. Doesn't look like anyone has any issues for now. I'll just ask that the e-board keeps an eye on the chat and addresses any issues anyone might have. But for now, we'll get into essentially our demonstration. So let's see, let's exit out of here. Okay, so here we have Tableau desktop. So we'll just open this up. And this is kind of what it should look like. These are previous projects that I've had. If you haven't worked on those, you might not have anything in that category. And then you should also have downloaded the CSV from Kaggle that's in our chat. So what you're going to do is you're going to come to the left side here. You're going to look under to a file and go to more. And this is going to connect you to here. You can go to your downloads and connect to the CSV. Go ahead and open that up. Give it a second. Okay, there we go. So here is basically the information of your CSV that you can start to explore before you get into creating data visualizations. For the sake of time, and we'll just go into about 3 visualizations so that you all have an idea, just a basic idea of how to work Tableau, and then you absolutely feel free to contact us afterwards with our group me or DM us on Instagram, anything like that, to ask further questions or to explore on your own. So just looking at the data set that we've uploaded, here are the fields that we have. There are this indicator, this little like hashtag sign. These are for numerical variables, and then this ABC that is for categorical variables. So these are all of the columns that we have. And then here's like a little insight into our data set, the first 100 rows. So the region, these numerical categories, and then their numerical variables, and then here are the categorical variables. So when you want to start creating a data set, what you do is you come down here. So right now we're in this tab, data source. So you come over here to create a worksheet. So this is kind of what it should look like. And then here on the side is where you have your columns broken down into the top. Here will be your categorical variables, and the bottom here will be your numerical variables. And then it's a matter of clicking them or dragging and dropping them, like we mentioned before, in order to see, the type of visualizations that you can create. So as an example, I'll give you a prepared one. So here we have the World Risk Index category. If we take that and put that into column, this is kind of the basic information about it. So there are some that are null, high, low, medium, very high, very low. Let us put that against region. we'll drag region into the row area. And this essentially is letting us know, based on region, what type of world risk index category all these regions have fallen into over the years. So for the sake of simplicity, let's take the year column and put it into filter. And this is where we can start to filter our data for more specific information. So this is showing the range of years from 2011 to 2021. And if you look at it, it's looking at it like the range of values, like it's a numerical value and not necessarily like a date value. So let's actually come out and then we can adjust the variable from how Tableau has seen it to how we need it to be seen. So if you click this little drop down here for year, you can look at how you can change your data. So we want to change the data type to date, since it's just the year, not a time included, just the date. So you click that and you can see that it changes into this little calendar indicator. So that's how we know, okay, the year has been, it's now recognized as the year and not just a numerical variable. We can put that back into filter and you can see how it's changed. It's not trying to give us a range of numerical values. It understands that it's looking at years and it wants to give us a range of years. So you can click years, click next, and then kind of choose the ones you want to include. Just randomly, I'll choose 2015, click OK. So now the data is just based on 2015. And that makes more sense because if you were looking at it before, for example, Afghanistan had a world risk index category in high and in very high. But how, if the world risk index category is only given to a country every year, how can it have multiple ones, multiple categories for 1 year? That doesn't make sense. But now that we filtered it to include only 1 year, now every region is only going to have 1 year. So that makes more sense for what we're trying to do. And now if you're looking at this seems like, what type of visualization is this? There's like too much going on. And that's because what we have here is in our row section, we have region as just a categorical variable. Now what we would like to do, let's take that out and let's look at region again. And now the cool thing that you can do with Tableau is you can change the data type. So we can actually drag this down to here, down to as a numerical variable. Give me 1 second. There we go. And now we can look at what it's telling us is it has counted the number of distinct regions in 2015. And now we can take that and put that into rows. And now what we have instead is a bar graph. And that looks much better than what we were trying to see before. There's no scrolling involved, the information is right there. And so what we're looking at is essentially the number of regions in 2015 for each world risk index category. Though that this is better than the previous visualization, there's still essentially like there, about 30 to 35 countries in each world risk index category. So there's more information that we can get from this. So this is where we can kind of play around with the marks. The marks will help us distinguish more information. So for example, let's say that we're interested in susceptibility. Let's take this and drag it into the color section. And now what we have here is we have our bars broken up into the different susceptibility categories, which are over here on this top right corner, high, low, medium, very high, very low. So another thing to understand is that a Tableau as a default will organize your rows, organize your columns or your label names by like alphabetical order. And that might not necessarily be what we want, especially when we're dealing with these types of values, categorical values, high, low, medium. There's a certain category that these go into. So you can actually pick up a column and move it around. So let's go very low, low, medium, high, very high. That makes more sense. And then here, let's do the same thing. Let's go very low. That's pretty fine there. Low, just drag it down. Medium, high, and then very high. And if you look at your information, that makes more sense. Also here, you can edit your colors. If you click this little drop down, you can go to edit colors and you can choose what you want to be what. So it makes more sense for very high to be red, high, maybe orange, yellow for medium, green for low, and then a dark blue for very low. Let's see how that looks. Okay. Now that makes more sense for the type of information that we would like to see from a visualization. And then if you kind of just click on one of the categories in the top right label, you can see, okay, these are the number at with your looking at it with your naked eye, the number of regions that fall under the this specific world risk index category and that have a very low susceptibility category. So the kind of trends that we're looking at here is that the higher your susceptibility category, the higher your world risk index category. And then vice versa, the lower it is, the lower your risk index is. So that's valuable information. The most important thing that you should do once you kind of feel comfortable with where your visualization is to kind of rename them. So just keep your visualization names or titles as clear as possible. Not anything, we can get creative with the visualizations, but the titles should be more descriptive. So I would just call this world risk index categories by susceptibility. We're also talking about regions here, so number of regions in each world risk category. There we go. And then this is kind of extra information. So that is the title that I would go with just as a starting point. And then also take this, copy it, and then come down here where it says sheet 1 and right click and rename it. And it's best to rename it the title that you've given the overall visualization. One more thing I kind of want to say before we leave this sheet is to kind of play around with like the marks that you have over here. These are really helpful in like giving additional information. So like, for example, like how we have like count region here, you can take region and then you can add maybe like a label. And then it can like include like numbers. So we know that there are 24 countries that have very low susceptibility categories and that are very low in the world risk index category. And vice versa, there are 11 or also 17 and that are in high and very high and have the very high susceptibility category. So that makes looking at a visualization more informative instead of just going at it with your naked eye. So just remember that there are lots of ways that you can explore with like your marks and that your type of variables that will give more information than something that just, you know, looks pretty. Let's try a new one. A lot of the information that we have here is, you know, it's based on region, right? So that kind of makes you think of maps. So why don't we make a map? Why don't we play around with this region column a little more? So region it's a geographical variable. So we can change the data type again to something geographical. So we have region, we can come here to country/region, and it'll be thought of in that way by Tableau. And then if you just click it, double click it, and then this map will just be created. And so now what we have here is a world map that has little markers on all of the countries that have been mentioned in our data set. And so we can look at this and we can start to explore when dealing with, like how we did in like the previous sheet, whenever we're dealing with multiple years, I like to just start with filtering the years. So like we did before, let's filter this to, I don't know, let's do 2021. Let's do that. Okay, that'll just filter our information from the get-go. Let us look at, we looked at susceptibility and we looked at world risk index. Let's look at exposure. Let's see. We have the numerical values for exposure. Let's take this and let's look at, the fact that we have these little markers on all of the countries. So when you have little markers like this, the intuitive thing is to play with color and to play with size. So let's take exposure and let's start with size. And then you can see certain markers for different countries kind of expand. And we have a little label over here for what is going on. And you can see here it says sum of exposure. So it's counting all of the, it's taking a sum of all of the exposures for each region in 2021 for now. And then here you can see that you can see that it's chosen sum. You can take average, you can take count. It doesn't really matter because we filtered the year already. Even though we've done this by size, something that really helps is doing the same thing but by color. That makes it so much more visually intuitive, like you understand what is going on instead of just seeing a bunch of different circles of various sizes. It might take you a second to realize that they're various sizes. You'd have to look a little closely, but looking at it like this, you can see much better that in kind of these areas, these island areas, there are bigger circles, darker circles, and in areas where there is much more, the countries are more landlocked or they have more land, they're not just coastal regions or coastal nations. They are on the lower and the lighter and the smaller size. And so that's kind of informative about the exposure column and what it has to tell you about a country. So essentially, countries or regions that are more like island nations or island regions, they have a greater risk of exposure and have a higher exposure index. So that includes countries like the Dominican Republic. We can see over here. We can see over here Japan. You can see over here Korea's a little bit, but not so much. The Philippines also. Madagascar, Chile, and that's really interesting if you look at, Brazil versus Chile, because, Brazil has this whole coastal area and so does Chile. But why is Chile's much smaller than Brazil's? Well, Brazil is not made up of just a little strip of land that is close to the coast. Chile is, though. All of Chile's entire, landmass is essentially against the ocean. But Brazil has this entire landmass where many cities, are not coastal cities. And so that's why overall its exposure index is a lot smaller than Chile's, even though they have kind of the same coastal size. So that's the type of information that you can get from your from a visualization that is made up of a map. So like we did before, let's name our map. What should we call it? Let's call it exposure indexes by region. That kind of gives you good information. And then let's copy this, say okay, and rename our sheet as well. That's just good visualization practices. It saves you a lot of time for, going ahead and making a lot of different worksheets and then having to come back and rename them. It might be difficult for you to remember, especially if you've been, working on a project for a long time. So this is a good thing to do. And yeah, that's kind of our second one. We can see, so look at this like information, like the first sheet that we made was a stacked bar graph, and now the second one is a complex map. So there's a variety of information that you can select from a CSV or a data set and present in a visualization. It's just a matter of you sitting down with your visualization and doing a lot of exploring and stacking a lot of different marks, different columns and rows, filters, all of that on each other. Let's see, we have about 20 more minutes, a little less than 20 minutes. So let's do one more and then we'll take some questions. So I opened a third sheet over here. Let's see. Why don't we do why don't we talked about susceptibility. Let's talk about susceptibility a little more. So before in kind of the previous regions, we were working with, count. That we worked with over here. We did the count of the regions. And then here we worked with the sum of exposure. Now let's work with susceptibility. Let's work with averages, because averages are a very valuable tool for data analysis and also information visualization. So as always, I like to start with the year like I did before. Let's filter the year. Let's see. What should we do? Let's do like 2019. There we go. So we're starting off with filtering our data set by year. Let's take susceptibility. Let's take the susceptibility category. Let's also filter it. And let's look at high and very high. So we're continuing to filter our data. Something interesting. So I want to work with susceptibility, but I'm not really sure what to do. So let me select the susceptibility category, or let me select the susceptibility numerical variable, and I can come up here to the top right and click show me. And so this is the built-in information visualization chart types that we were talking about in the presentation, where you can kind of click the variables that you're interested in working with and then see what you can do with that. So if I was interested in making, a packed bubbles visualization, it's saying here that I would need to add one or more dimensions and then one or two measures. So let's see. I have a measure already. Let's say I want to add another dimension. Let me add region as well. So I have a Mac, so I'm going to hit Command Region so that it's selecting both of them. And then I can see here that packed bubbles, because I have selected columns or variables that, would create a packed bubble visualization properly. Now that becomes an option. So I can click that and it does it already for me. And it looks really interesting. You can see a variety of sizes. It's a little difficult to see exactly what we can get from such a visualization. Remember, when we were looking at regions, we had without the color, this is what we had, and it was kind of difficult to see exactly what was going on. But when we added color, it made the information a lot clearer. So let's do that here as well. Let's take susceptibility, same susceptibility, and add color. And now we have a lot more information. And so remember, we want to talk about averages. Remember that the default is sum. So you want to come down here, you want to come to measure, and you want to make it, oh, sorry, I made it median. You want to make it average, and you want to do it to both the color and the size marker. Let's see, average is here. There we go. And so what we are looking at, we have also, just want to let you know that this is the label marker. This is why we have, it says on these bubbles, Mali, Sudan, Uganda, all of that. It's labeling the region, just so you all know. So this is giving us information on the susceptibility categories of kind of the higher or very high susceptible countries in 2019. So if we looked at this and we edited the filter, what we have here, because we're working with averages, we can, switch up our filters a little more and get more concrete information. So we can add medium and see how it changes. There's, more countries that are included who have been labeled as, a medium susceptible category in 2019. We can also play around with the years a little bit, edit the filter. So we just have 2019. Let's do 2017, 18, 2020. Let's do like these category of 5 years and see how the data changes. So the amount of bubbles look the same because the amount of regions look the same, but the numbers that they each have are different because we're taking an average of a greater amount of years. And so we have this information is different from what we were looking at before, because it's telling us, these darker and bigger bubbles are countries that have consistently had higher susceptibility categories, while before, and when we were just looking at 1 year, that's just giving you the information of what was going on in 2019. This is giving you more consistent information of what is going on over an extended period of years. And so like we were doing before, let us rename this. sheet. Let's see, to packed bubbles, we're talking about regions, we're talking about susceptibility. So let's say the average susceptibility of regions from the years, I believe we did 2017 to 2022. I believe that's what we did. Apply. Perfect. And then copy. Okay. And as always, rename the sheet what we gave the title. Perfect. So this is the information that we have from regarding the average susceptibility of for regions over a course of years. And yeah, that's pretty much the brunt of like what I wanted to go over. And so I just want to like reiterate again, like look at the different types of like regions that are, sorry, the different types of variables that you can talk about, different types of things that you can highlight. You can also, you know, Tableau is so complex in what you can include and what type of information, how you can display your information. So we just kind of went with the default in terms of colors, but you can also see you can edit colors, you can edit the range of what you're going with. We could make this like pink. Oh, sorry about that. Click OK, make this pink, and then have it change. And you know, you can create like, you know, a variety of different types of stories based on, you know, the visualizations that you create. So if you created a bunch of worksheets regarding susceptibility, you could have them all be this type of color. And while all of the worksheets regarding exposure could all be, you know, a blue color. And that is, you know, another helpful tool in creating a story with your visualizations. And that's what Tableau is really able to do for you, really helpful and really interesting in all the different types of, you know, exploration that you can do with your data sets. And I strongly recommend, you know, if you're doing, you know, a datathon, a hackathon, a course project or anything, and you want to look at your data sets, and maybe you want to, you know, start off with this type of data analysis in terms of visualizations before getting into, you know, any coding or anything that you have to do. This is a great thing to do. I do this for my projects. I can break things down visually. I'm a much more a better learner visually. So I can break things down, look at this and really understand, okay, this is kind of what my data set is telling me. Now I can, you know, attack the coding problems based on what I've seen from my visualizations. And that's really helpful. So yeah, these are kind of the 3 sheets that we've created for this data set. And the final thing is to save it. So just come to File, Save As, make sure you save it, you know, where you want. I'll save it in my downloads with the CSV, and I'll just rename it World Risk Index Tableau. There we go, save. Perfect. And then it should like rename up here as you save it. And yeah, that is the, how do I stop sharing? Okay. That is the completion of our workshop on Tableau. We have about 10 minutes left. Does anybody have any questions or anything that they want to review?
Oh, I also just want to mention that make sure you guys tune in next week. I'm not sure whether it'll be in person yet or online, but we'll definitely keep you updated because we're going to be using all of the skills that we learned tonight as a group to help everyone make each of their own little Tableau projects that can go on your GitHub or your LinkedIn or your resume or whatever you want.
Absolutely. And I would really recommend using Tableau just to kind of, if you don't have coding experience, just to kind of get interested in how to work with data sets, how to think analytically about the different columns that you have, numerical variables, categorical variables, attacking them, you know, differentiating the ones that, you know, have date information, time information, region information. That's really helpful in making a data set seem more intuitive, and a great way of starting with data sets and starting with data analysis, then, you know, getting a handle on coding. This is a great way to like go into it. Yeah, so in the chat, we have the attendance link. We have a link to the data set for you to explore on your own. As Kadishni mentions, this meeting is going to be posted on YouTube. James asked in the chat if this file will be posted anywhere. We'll be posting it on our link tree. I'll add a link to our link tree for everyone.